Caimano, and I'm the founder of Support Groups Central, and that's found at supportgroupcentral.com.
Welcome to Mindset. I'm your host, James Curtis. This is an episode on depression, dealing with depression, and the cool thing about the show today is there actually is a way that you can manage this and do it yourself without using a lot of drugs. Welcome to today's broadcast coming to you from Southern California. This is Mindset, mental health news and information. Before we get to our main topic today, a few topics in the news from NBC News. NBC News reports that 8% of Americans have depression, but few are being treated. The most depressed groups, women ages 40 to 59. More than 12% of women say that they are depressed. And teenage boys are among some of the highest numbers, although just 4% of them have been diagnosed with depression, according to the report. The study that it reported on, covering a period from 2009 to 2012, found that 7.6% of Americans aged 12 and over had depression, moderate or severe depressive symptoms in the past 2 weeks. That's according to Laura Pratt and Deborah Brody of the National Center for Health Statistics. According to Pratt and Brody, about 3% of Americans aged 12 and over have severe depressive symptoms. And of those with the severe depressive symptoms, 35% reported having contact with a mental health professional in the past year. Can being a cop kill you? And despite a lot of news in the last few weeks that many people across the country found disturbing with respect to officer-involved shootings and young black men across the country, there's a recent study out talking about the stress that police officers undergo, citing that sudden stress raises their risk, that is the risk of the police officers, for sudden cardiac arrest. Breaking up fights and chasing and arresting suspects may be the deadliest parts of police duty, not only because of the obvious risks of violence, but they may also trigger heart attacks. NBC News is reporting that an in-depth study showed that what kills cops in sudden stress where there's sudden stress which kills cops, it kills them because it sets off heart attacks. The risk of sudden heart attack death is as much as 69 times higher when police are struggling to restrain people who are fighting with them. A team reports in the journal thebmj.com. And the BMJ is formerly known as the British Medical Journal and is an internationally peer-reviewed medical journal. From the New York Times, Mayor Bill de Blasio of New York said that officials would invest in a plan to change the way the city's criminal justice system deals with those who have mental illness or substance abuse problems. Mayor de Blasio has announced an ambitious $130 million plan to break up that pattern that is that revolving door that has police officers and the criminal justice system in the form of the courts dealing with individuals who are living with mental illness as a bit of a revolving door. And the idea of this plan is to screen out nonviolent defendants who are living with mental illness before arraignment and divert many more of them to supervised release programs or to other treatment programs rather than simply holding them in jail. Similar plans have been announced in other parts of the country, including a program in Los Angeles. Mindset ran a story on a pilot program in Los Angeles in our Navigating Mental Health Courts. That was in September of this year. And from the Wall Street Journal, in the wake of the apparent suicide of Ohio State football player Costa Karageorge, Brian Hainline's argument that college athletes need better mental health services will probably get more attention around the NCAA. Hainline is the NCAA's first ever chief medical officer, and during a recent interview in his office, according to the Journal, Hainline made it clear that he is not limiting his attention to concussions. Quote, "You have to look at the whole person and not just have a one-size-fits-all policy. This is about having an understanding of the human soul," according to the Wall Street Journal's quote of Hainline. A mental health manual that Hainline distributed to about 1,100 athletic directors featured distinct chapters on eating disorders, anxiety, abuse, depression, sleeping problems, and suicide, along with other chapters on the mental health implications of getting injured, suffering a concussion, and failing to make it to the professional football leagues. And finally, this from the Wall Street Journal. Vets are seeking more help for PTSD, but it's the veterans from past wars that account for a large percentage of the increase. The Wall Street Journal reports that more than 530,000 veterans received treatment for post-traumatic stress syndrome, or PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, from VA hospitals and clinics through March of this year, and that nearly doubled the total from 2006, according to the Veterans Administration. Now, while Iraq and Afghanistan veterans make up a large portion of this increase, they account for slightly more than a quarter of the PTSD patients. The rest of this number is comprised of vets and from earlier wars that are mainly from the Vietnam era. When we return, we're talking about managing your own stress, managing your depression that might come from stress, and what that looks like and how you can do it on your own with little use of drugs, and you get to design it. More when we return.
I'm Vince Caimano, and I'm the founder of Support Groups Central, and that's found at supportgroupcentral.com. How you can recover from depression and do it without relying so much on medications.
That is the voice of Vince Caimano, and as he announced at the outset, he is the founder and CEO of Support Groups Central. They have a great website. He has a great program that you're going to hear more about as we proceed through the program. His website, supportgroupcentral.com. You can find it on our Facebook page, facebook.com/mindset show page. I had the opportunity to hear a presentation by Vince Caimano. He's a PhD psychologist, and although his historic or traditional training is with workplace environments and consulting with companies on behavioral psychology from an industrial standpoint, he also has suffered from depression for a good part of his life. He talks about suffering from depression since he was in high school. And so even though his training wasn't as a marriage family therapist, the type of therapist that you would think about if you're thinking about a therapeutic setting where you're talking to someone to help